Despite his public appearances where he's laughing with children or whatnot, William does seem very angry recently. And there have been reports of a rift between him and Charles. William didn't show up.
For decades, the monarchy stood as a symbol of control and quiet power. It always looked stable, almost untouchable, until suddenly everything changed. In a moment no one expected, the world watched as things seemed to unravel live on television. King Charles broke down in tears during a national broadcast, and the reaction was instant. Viewers were stunned, confused, and trying to make sense of what they had just seen. Rumors started spreading quickly, talk of resignation, pressure, or something deeper happening behind palace walls. The calm, controlled image of the monarchy suddenly didn't feel so solid anymore. To understand how things reached this point, you have to look back at the long road that led King Charles III to the throne. His story is not ordinary at all. He waited longer than any heir in British history, and that kind of wait shapes a person in ways most people can't imagine. It all began on February 6, 1952. That was the day his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, became queen. Charles was just 3 years old at the time. While most children were focused on simple things like learning and playing, his entire future was already decided. From that moment, he became next in line to the throne, stepping into a life defined by duty, expectation, and constant public attention. That kind of responsibility stays with you. It affects every decision, every step, every stage of life. And for Charles, this wasn't something temporary. It lasted for decades, shaping him as he grew into adulthood and beyond. Before Charles, the longest wait for the throne belonged to King Edward VII, who waited 59 years. That was already considered an incredibly long time. But Charles went far beyond that, waiting 70 years and 214 days before finally becoming king. That level of patience and endurance is something very few people will ever experience. His journey wasn't just about waiting, though. It was about adapting, learning, and staying prepared through decades of change. The world around him evolved, politics shifted, society changed, expectations grew, and he had to keep up with all of it while still holding on to royal traditions.
God save the king! God save the king!
During the later years of Queen Elizabeth II's reign, Charles didn't just stand by. He took on a huge share of royal responsibilities, especially between 2002 and 2022. In that period alone, he carried out more than 10,900 official engagements. These were not just symbolic appearances. They required real involvement, attention, and effort. He represented the monarchy at major global events, attended state funerals of world leaders, and took part in important ceremonies. He honored individuals during investitures and played a role in maintaining the historical legacy of the royal family. Through his work with the Royal Collection Trust, he also helped preserve cultural and historical assets that hold deep significance. In many ways, he was already acting as a king long before he officially became one. He understood the role, the pressure, and the expectations that came with it. By the time he stepped into the position, he wasn't facing something new. He was continuing something he had been preparing for his entire life. Outside of formal duties, Charles built a strong legacy through his charity work. One of his most impactful contributions was the creation of the Prince's Trust. Through this initiative, he helped young people gain skills, confidence, and opportunities to build better futures. It wasn't just symbolic support, it created real change for many individuals. His work didn't stop there. Through the Prince's charities and support for more than 800 organizations, he contributed to areas like education, healthcare, community development, and the arts. He stayed actively involved, using his platform to bring attention to causes that mattered to him. Another major part of his legacy is his early focus on environmental issues. Long before climate change became a global topic, Charles was already speaking about it. He supported organic farming, sustainability, and the protection of nature at a time when these ideas were not widely accepted. Even when people questioned or dismissed those concerns, he continued to push forward. That showed a level of commitment and long-term thinking that influenced how many people now view environmental responsibility. His efforts encouraged others to think differently and take action. All of these experiences helped shape him into a leader who understands both tradition and the need for change. He witnessed major shifts in society and learned how to navigate them while still respecting the history of the monarchy. By the time he became king, he had already spent a lifetime preparing for that responsibility. His story is not just about waiting. It is about using time with purpose, turning years of preparation into meaningful action. His journey shows how patience, consistency, and commitment can build a lasting legacy long before the moment of recognition arrives. But then came the moment that caught everyone off guard. What caused such a strong emotional reaction from King Charles? What happened that led to that unexpected display of emotion? Some of the answers go back to a deeply personal moment. Not a ceremony, not a public duty, but something much quieter. Hearing his son speak about the future. This moment traces back to a 2019 documentary aired on ITV. In it, Prince William was shown visiting a tenant farmer on the Duchy of Cornwall estate. At the time, William was already preparing for his future role, knowing he would one day take over responsibility for the estate from his father. The setting was calm, almost simple. William walked across open fields with the farmer, taking in the surroundings and listening closely. But the conversation carried more weight than it seemed at first. As they spoke, William reflected on responsibility, family duty, and what it means to inherit something shaped by history. His words were measured and thoughtful. He wasn't speaking casually. There was a clear awareness of what lay ahead for him. He talked about the importance of understanding the land, respecting the people who work on it, and keeping traditions alive while also adapting to modern needs. There was a sense that he was already thinking seriously about the role he would one day take on. William also admitted that these thoughts had already been on his mind. Even before officially stepping into that position, he seemed to be carrying part of the responsibility. That level of awareness stood out clearly in the way he spoke. For most viewers, it was simply a thoughtful moment in a documentary, calm, reflective, and meaningful in a quiet way. But behind the scenes, it appears that moment may have carried much more emotional weight than anyone realized at the time. But for King Charles, watching his son speak like that carried a much deeper weight behind closed doors. This wasn't just a proud father moment. It hit something real, something emotional that had been building for years. Charles later admitted that the scene affected him more than he expected. As he watched William calmly talk about the future of the duchy, something shifted inside him. It wasn't only pride in his son's maturity. It was the sudden realization that time had already moved forward, whether he was ready for it or not. For more than 50 years, Charles had been deeply connected to the Duchy of Cornwall. This wasn't just a role on paper. He poured real energy into it, improving the land, supporting the people living there, and turning it into something sustainable for the future. It became personal, almost like a legacy he was building piece by piece. He didn't just manage it, he shaped it. He spent decades putting systems in place, rebuilding trust, and making sure everything would be strong enough to pass on. So when he saw William speaking with that same level of care and seriousness, it hit differently. It felt like everything he had worked on was now being understood by someone else. That moment wasn't loud or dramatic on the surface, but emotionally, it was powerful. Charles admitted it brought him to tears, not out of sadness, but because it was overwhelming in a different way. It was like seeing years of effort finally mean something beyond himself. It was deeper than just royal duty. It was a father watching his son step into responsibility. No speeches, no ceremony, just a quiet shift happening right in front of him. In that moment, it felt like a torch was being passed without anyone announcing it. Not through tradition, not through headlines, but through understanding. That's what made it hit so hard. For Charles, leadership was never just about holding power. It was about preparing someone else to carry it forward the right way. And in William's words, he could see that preparation had worked, that everything he had built wasn't going to be lost or misunderstood. That's why he later spoke about it in such emotional terms. It wasn't just about succession in a formal sense. It was about realizing that the future he had been working toward for decades was no longer far away. It was already forming, already real, already in motion. And in that realization, there was something unexpectedly human, a quiet sense of relief, knowing that what he built would continue, and that it actually mattered to the next generation. But that moment also raised bigger questions. How exactly does a transition like this happen? Is it sudden, or is it something planned over time? Behind the scenes, things appear far more controlled than the public might think. There is growing speculation that King Charles is already preparing for a future transfer of responsibility to Prince William, but not in a dramatic or rushed way. There's no sign of an immediate step down. Instead, everything points to a slow, careful shift happening quietly inside palace walls. Conversations are said to be focused on long-term stability, not sudden moves or public shock. This isn't about headlines or chaos. It's about control, timing, and making sure nothing falls apart when the moment eventually comes. People close to royal circles describe an environment where continuity is everything. The goal is simple: keep the monarchy steady no matter what happens. At the center of all this is Prince William's growing role. He's not waiting on the sidelines anymore. He's stepping into more responsibilities, attending key meetings, and becoming part of important decisions that shape the future of the royal household. And this isn't random. It's being done step by step, carefully planned. Each new responsibility builds experience, confidence, and understanding. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. Over time, this steady increase in involvement is shaping him into a future leader without putting him under sudden pressure. It's controlled growth, not a sudden takeover. At the same time, something else is happening. The public is slowly getting used to seeing William in this position. Watching him act, speak, and lead in real situations builds familiarity and trust. This kind of exposure matters. It allows people to form opinions naturally, instead of being forced to accept a sudden change. Everything feels smoother, more expected. There have also been quiet concerns about the demands placed on King Charles, especially when it comes to health and the pressure of his role. While nothing official has been confirmed, these concerns have added to the ongoing discussions about long-term planning. Still, insiders make one thing clear: the king remains focused on the strength and unity of the monarchy. Any preparation happening now is about protecting that, not stepping away suddenly. This is about making sure there are no gaps, no confusion, no instability when the time comes. Every move is calculated, every step intentional. What's important here is that nothing about this transition is abrupt. It's not forced, and it's not chaotic. It's a slow shift where responsibilities are gradually shared and adjusted over time. This kind of approach allows experience to pass naturally from one generation to the next. William isn't being thrown into the role, he's growing into it. With each new duty, he gains more visibility, more confidence, and a deeper understanding of what leadership really demands. And at the same time, the monarchy continues to look stable and consistent to the public. That stability is key. When transitions are handled carefully, there's less uncertainty, fewer surprises, and more trust from the public. People don't feel like something sudden is happening behind the scenes. Instead, they see a system that is working exactly as it should. In a bigger sense, this kind of planning is not unusual for a monarchy built on tradition. These systems rely on smooth transitions, not dramatic shifts. The goal has always been the same: protect continuity, maintain confidence, and make sure each generation is ready when their moment arrives. And right now, Prince William is becoming more visible than ever. His role is expanding both nationally and internationally, giving him the kind of exposure needed to step into leadership when the time comes. At the same time, King Charles continues focusing on his long-standing priorities, including environmental causes, charity work, and modernizing aspects of royal life. He's shaping a reign that balances tradition with change. Many observers believe this quiet, controlled preparation is exactly what keeps the monarchy stable, even during uncertain times. No sudden moves, just a steady shift happening right in front of everyone, whether they realize it or not. It allows both father and son to move in sync, almost like a quiet partnership behind the scenes. Each of them plays a different role, but both are focused on one thing: keeping the monarchy strong and steady for what's coming next. Nothing about this process is rushed. Every step feels calculated, slow, and intentional. It's all being shaped carefully to protect the future, making sure stability stays locked in no matter what happens ahead. But this brings up a serious question. Is Prince William actually ready to take over when that moment comes? And if he is, how long has he really been preparing for something this massive? When you look closer, it becomes clear this didn't just happen overnight. Prince William, now the Prince of Wales, is widely seen by royal experts as someone who is as prepared as possible for the role of king. That doesn't mean the job will be easy, far from it, but it does mean he's been shaped over time, step by step, into someone who can handle it. This kind of preparation isn't sudden, it's been building for years. From a young age, William already knew his path wouldn't be like everyone else's. His future was set early, and that awareness followed him as he grew older. But recently, that pressure has become more real than ever. As King Charles took on the crown, more responsibility naturally started shifting toward William. Not in a dramatic way, but in a steady, controlled flow. That shift has helped him grow not just in title, but in real, hands-on experience. Now he's more visible than ever before. He's out there representing the royal family on major stages, meeting global leaders, supporting major causes, and being part of conversations that actually matter on a national and international level. And these aren't just appearances for show. These roles demand focus, awareness, and control. Every move is watched, every word matters. Over time, William has shown he can handle that pressure without losing composure. Royal experts often point out that this slow build is intentional. The monarchy doesn't gamble with leadership, it prepares it carefully. William has been given responsibility in stages, allowing him to learn how to deal with media pressure, public expectations, and serious diplomatic situations. Each level adds more experience, more confidence, and more control. But what really stands out is his leadership style. He's not trying to tear everything down or completely reinvent the monarchy. At the same time, he's not stuck in the past either. He sits right in the middle, respecting tradition while quietly pushing for changes that make sense in today's world. That includes being more open, more relatable, and more aware of the everyday struggles people actually face. That balance is powerful. It suggests that when he does become king, he won't just protect the image of the crown. He'll try to make it feel more connected to real life. But readiness isn't just about public appearances or leadership skills. It's also about mindset. And this is where things get serious. People who follow him closely say William has already accepted what's coming. He understands that becoming king isn't just a title. It's a lifetime of pressure, attention, and responsibility that never switches off. Still, he carries himself in a calm and steady way. Even in high-pressure situations, he doesn't seem shaken. He stays focused, controlled, and measured. That emotional balance matters more than people realize. Because being a monarch isn't just about making decisions. It's about staying steady when everything around you gets intense. At this point, William isn't just seen as someone waiting anymore. He's already stepping into leadership piece by piece. Every speech, every visit, every move he makes is part of shaping him into what comes next. And as time moves forward, his role will only grow stronger. The exact moment of transition might still be unknown. But one thing is clear, he's getting closer to it with every step he takes. But here's the bigger question. Does the public actually believe in him? Because preparation behind palace walls is one thing. Public trust is something completely different. And right now, there's a noticeable shift happening. More people are starting to see William not just as the future king, but as someone already stepping into that space. Across discussions, expert opinions, and public reactions, there's a growing sense of confidence. Not blind trust, but cautious optimism. A phrase that keeps coming up is simple but powerful. He's as ready as he'll ever be. That says a lot. This confidence didn't appear overnight. It's been building slowly over years of consistent visibility and responsibility. People have watched him grow into the role, not just inherit it. His duties today go far beyond ceremony. He's involved in global events, major initiatives, and issues that actually impact people's lives, like mental health, environmental concerns, and community development. That kind of involvement changes how people see him. He's no longer just the heir standing in the background. He's active, present, and already carrying weight. Royal experts often say this steady rise has reshaped public perception. Instead of waiting for the role, William is practicing leadership in real time. His calm approach, careful communication, and consistent presence have helped build trust. In times where uncertainty feels high, people tend to look for stability, and he's starting to represent that. Public opinion, based on ongoing discussion, leans more toward acceptance than doubt. Many see him as someone who can bridge two worlds, tradition and modern life. On one side, he respects the deep history of the monarchy. On the other, he understands that things can't stay frozen forever. Change has to happen, just not recklessly. That ability to stand between both sides is one of his strongest advantages. It makes him feel like a steady figure for what's ahead. There's also a growing belief that William understands something deeper, the emotional role of the monarchy today. It's not just about power or position anymore. It's about connection. People expect more now. They want relatability, not distance. And in many ways, William reflects that shift. His approach feels quieter, more grounded, and less formal compared to older generations. That difference stands out. It makes him easier to connect with, easier to understand, and for many, easier to trust. And this has made a lot of people feel like Prince William is actually relatable, not distant or out of touch like older royal images used to feel. He comes across as someone who understands real life, and that alone has helped build a stronger connection with the public. But even with that growing confidence, there's still a quiet layer of caution in how people describe his readiness. That phrase keeps coming up, as ready as he'll ever be. And it sounds reassuring, but it also carries a deeper meaning. Because the truth is, no amount of preparation can fully prepare someone for becoming king. This role isn't like anything else. It comes with pressure that never stops, responsibility that never fades, and situations that can't always be predicted or controlled. You can train for years, but the real test only begins when the crown is actually on your head. That's why public opinion feels balanced. There's real admiration for how far William has come and a strong belief that he can lead. But at the same time, people understand that kingship is a completely different level. It's this mix, confidence with a touch of realism, that defines how people see his path forward. There's belief in him, but no one is pretending it will be easy. And that leads to the next big question. Are there doubts? Because behind all the praise, there's also a growing wave of concern among royal observers and commentators about what his reign could actually look like. Some see him as exactly what the monarchy needs: modern, thoughtful, and aware of how much the world has changed. But others aren't so sure. There's a real concern that his push for change could reshape the monarchy in ways that might not fully work long-term. William has made it clear more than once that he wants the monarchy to feel relevant in today's world. Not stuck in the past, not holding on to traditions just because that's how it's always been done. For some people, that's refreshing. It feels necessary, even overdue. They see him as someone trying to keep the monarchy alive for younger generations who live in a completely different reality compared to the past. But not everyone agrees with that direction. And this is where things get complicated. Some royal experts believe that changing too much, too fast, could actually weaken the monarchy instead of helping it. Because tradition isn't just about old habits, it's about identity, stability, and continuity. If those elements start to fade, the monarchy could lose what makes it unique in the first place. That's the risk people keep pointing out. One of the biggest concerns focuses on William's strong commitment to family life and privacy. Unlike past generations where senior royals were expected to always be visible, always present, always working in public, William has taken a different approach. He clearly prioritizes protecting his children and keeping a more private home life. And while a lot of people respect that, seeing him as a dedicated father, critics are looking at the bigger picture. They worry that if the royal family becomes less visible, the connection between the monarchy and the public could slowly weaken over time. For decades, Queen Elizabeth II maintained a constant presence. People saw her regularly, and that consistency helped build a strong emotional bond with the public. That visibility mattered more than people realized. So now, the concern is simple. What happens if that visibility drops? Does the connection stay strong, or does it start to fade? There's also growing talk that William might prefer a more flexible, modern way of handling royal duties. Not constant appearances, not strict routines, but a more balanced system. Nothing is confirmed, but even the idea of that shift has raised eyebrows. Some critics feel that if things become too relaxed, the monarchy could start to feel less stable or less dependable in its symbolic role. Another point that keeps coming up is his communication style. William is more open, more direct, and definitely more informal compared to previous generations. That works in his favor when it comes to relatability. People feel like they understand him more. But at the same time, some experts believe this could create tension behind the scenes, especially if his vision doesn't fully match King Charles III's approach. Different ideas about how the monarchy should evolve aren't always easy to manage, especially inside an institution built on tradition and structure. And then there's the bigger debate. How far should modernization actually go? Supporters argue that change is necessary. Without it, the monarchy risks becoming outdated in a fast-moving world. But critics push back hard on that idea. They warn that too much change could blur what the monarchy even represents. If it becomes too modern, too flexible, too different, it might lose its meaning altogether. That's the tension right now. On one side, you have a future king who wants to adapt, evolve, and stay relevant. On the other, a system that has survived for centuries by staying consistent and rooted in tradition. And finding that balance, that's where the real challenge is. Overall, Prince William's path forward feels both promising and uncertain at the same time. He represents a more modern, family-focused, and grounded version of leadership. Someone who understands people, values connection, and wants to move forward. But at the same time, his approach raises serious questions. How do you modernize without losing tradition? How do you stay private without becoming distant? How do you change a system without weakening it? Those are the questions still hanging in the air, and the answers will define what kind of king he eventually becomes.